Volkswagen Beetle. I think it's 2010, but I love it. I don't have to have makeup. For lighting, it doesn't spend 20 minutes to get the lighting right. The sound is just turn it on. And so I really, really appreciate this.
Yes, it's neat to see you sitting in your car and recording. You got your microphone taped there to the to the dashboard. So, with everyone being all panicked about not being able to get out of their home, we know a lot of ministries are trying to figure out, how do we do ministry? How do we equip people with everyone being forced to stay at home? Living Waters has come up with something that's coming up very soon. It's going to be next week, April 20th to the 24th. And we wanted to talk about this. This is called the Home Conference on Zoom. Can you explain this a bit for us?
This is a home conference on Zoom.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, it's a conference from home. We're broadcasting instead of in our studio, we're broadcasting from our homes. And we've been doing that a lot with our television program. Our TV program was originally recorded in our studio. It goes worldwide on 190 countries, I think 90 networks, and they now accept it on Zoom. It's very bad quality footage, but it's good quality content. And that's really what matters. And I think the whole world has changed. Now we don't mind if something isn't in high definition as long as the content is good. We've kind of got used to it. And so we really enjoy it. We've been able to retain our synergy between the three or four of us. Eddie Roman sits in there directing it on camera. So it's great. So we're going to do the conference the same way. I think it's 4 days. We've got J. Warner Wallace, a criminal investigator, detective, who was an atheist. He's joining us. And we're going to equip Christians to share their faith. And these are really, really opportune times, Andrew. I've never seen people so open to the gospel. I got a telemarketer call my cell phone yesterday. And I've never been so delighted because I haven't witnessed anyone since last Saturday. I went to local Costco and I was in fear and trembling because, I've been doing Huntington Beach almost every Saturday for 12 years. And I know what to expect. I know how to start, and I'm going to get hecklers. And I went to Costco, and there's 150 people lined up, and they're all wearing masks like terrorists. And I was real nervous because I didn't know how it was going to go. But they listened. They stayed. Well, they had no choice. They were in line. But they stayed. No one stoned me to death. And I'm going to each Saturday go to different Costco's and share the gospel with them because everyone's thinking about their mortality. It's like we're having an early midlife crisis. Have you ever had a midlife crisis, Andrew?
No, I'm trying to avoid that.
Well, no one has, because you don't know where your midlife is. And how do you figure that? I'm 45. That's my midlife crisis. You don't know when you're going to die. But it's when people realize their mortality. They realize that death isn't something that happens to other people. It's going to happen to them. And it's making them open to the gospel. And I had that assurance when I was talking to these 150 people, that I was talking to people who are beginning to think about God and their own mortality. And so it's the same everywhere you go. Everyone's thinking, even atheists. There's no atheists in a pandemic. They're thinking about this and what a horrible way to die with this coronavirus. So we need to take advantage of the opportunity. And as I was saying, do you need me to have a break? Do you want to say something? I'm going to go on.
Actually,
this telemarketer called my cell phone, and I thought, whoa, this is an unsaved person. So I witnessed to him. And afterwards, I hung up, and I thought, praise God, I prayed for him. And then last night, I was up praying, and I thought, wow, I'd like to get my number out there and have telemarketers call me all day, every day. And so I looked online, and it says, if you've got a cell phone, you won't get many telemarketers. But if you've got a landline, they'll bombard you. And I thought, wow, we had a landline up about 4 years ago. So I spent an hour today calling Verizon and other companies to try and find out who was the provider for my landline 4 or 5 years ago. And I couldn't track it down, which disappointed me because I would have got that landline put back in, floated my number out there, and spent the whole day just lying in bed witnessing to telemarketers, but it didn't happen.
Well, you could call almost any phone company, and they could probably put one in, and they will bombard your cell phone. I know that because they do mine. But it was interesting. You went to Costco, and the thing that I saw with the video that you put out was you're usually, when you go to Huntington Beach, you use the trivia to draw a crowd. You can't draw a crowd now. It's not.
The crowd was drawn. It was just standing there. They didn't need trivia. They needed the gospel. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a completely different scenario, completely different kettle of fish when we're fishing for men with this coronavirus. So yeah, it was a little unnerving for me. I was nervous, I got to admit. But God came through, and it was a great opportunity.
Your humor was great in there. You go to hand out the gospel tracts after you preach the gospel, you get done. You go to hand out tracts and you let everyone know that you measured your arm, that it's three feet. So if everyone reaches their arm out, you're 6 feet between you.
Yeah, I saw a guy on the comments of our YouTube channel. He said, no, you're not speaking the truth. I'm 6 feet. And my arm's barely three feet. So your arm isn't in 3 feet. You're breaking the rules here. So I said, look, I handed out the stuff in a box that was 9 inches long. So that was over 3 feet. So just some people are just so silly.
So you have this home conference you got is the way it's scheduled. I loved the way that you guys titled it, turning your confinement into refinement. I love that. So this conference is going to be Monday through Friday. So, and it's at the same time, 7 to 8 Eastern time. And then it's on Zoom with meeting with question and answers afterwards. I know you have, I think it's Kirk on Monday, Easy on Tuesday, you're on Wednesday. Mark Spence is on Thursday, and then Jim Wallace, he goes by J. Warner Wallace when he writes, because there's a different Jim Wallace who's a liberal, but Jim Wallace, who is with his book is Cold Case Christianity. People who listen to this show regularly know of him. He's someone I happen to know as well. Great.
Isn't it strange, Andrew, that when people say J. Warner Wallace, it has an air of like intellectualness or something, that they use their letter rather than their name, like R.C. Sproul. Do you know what R.C. stands for? Did I ever tell you?
No.
Ray Comfort. he was just too embarrassed to tell people. So.
Oh, hey, actually, when I was with you last time, you told me that the Popeyes was Roman Catholic. Well, why was that?
If you look at the word Popeyes up closely, it actually says, get ready for this, Pope, yes. So it's not this conspiracy, very subtle conspiracy by the Roman Catholic Church to try and get us following the Pope, but I'm not fooled, and I'm spreading this, I tell you, Andrew.
Yeah, every time since you've told me that, every time I go buy a Popeyes, I can't help but to see the Pope yes now. You got it stuck in my head. So what are some of the things that you guys are hoping to do with this conference? Having a conference, during the week. I like the idea that it's the same time. It's for those folks who are still working during the day, but working from home. It's just after dinner hour, East Coast. What are some of the things you guys are hoping to do with this, and what are you hoping to teach?
Well, I haven't got a clue what the other guy's going to teach, but I know what I'm going to say because I've checked my brain. And I'm going to talk about Exodus chapter 4, where we see something really incredible. I'll give you a little synopsis, if I may. Hope I don't steal my own thunder. But God told Moses to take his words to the Pharaoh and tell him to let his people go. And Moses whined. He said, they won't believe me. They won't believe what I say. I'm not eloquent. He had all these things. They'll say that, God did not appear to you. And then God says something very strange to Moses. He said, what's that in your hand? And, God knew what was in his hand, but he was bringing something very important to Moses. That he had a rod in his hand. He said, throw it down. So Moses threw the rod down, and it turned into a serpent. And then Moses jumped back because he was scared, which is fair enough. And then God says, take it by the tail. So he took it by the tail and turned back into a rod. And within that portion of scripture, there are 3 incredible keys for us as Christians in reaching the lost. One is something that God has put close at hand. He says to us in our fears, what's that in your hand? He's given us his moral law, the law of Moses, that rod of authority. And we are to throw it down before the ungodly and let it turn into a serpent. We're not to be fearful of the law like Moses was fearful of the serpent, because we're Christians and that law can't touch us. D.L. Moody says the law can only chase a man to Calvary, no further. There's no condemnation to them that are in Christ Jesus. So God's law can't touch us. Once called for our death sentence, We had the frown of God, his anger upon us, but now we have the smile of God because of what Jesus did through the cross. So we're to throw it down on the face of the ungodly and let the serpents of the law bite them to bring about a death sentence to them. Jesus spoke in John chapter 3, verses, I think, 15 and 16, as Moses was lifted up and the serpent was lifted up by Moses on a pole, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. So there's a direct reference to salvation, and some guy's got a weed eater right by my ear. Hang on a minute. Knock it off. I should have wound my window up, but I would have choked in the heat. And so, and then we can take that by the tail. The law is an instrument. It can't hurt us, and we can use it to reach the lost. So I'm going to expound that, what actually happens when you use that serpent to drive people to look to the cross, where they can find healing from the Lord's wrath.
So on Monday night, according to at least the website, Kirk's going to speak on the gospel insights for marriage. EZ has on Tuesday night is maintaining joy in the midst of madness. You mentioned evangelistic gold from the life of Moses. Mark Spence is going to speak on why we should be hopeful, which I think is important right now. And then Jim is going to be speaking on how to help your kids stay in the faith, which is, I think a lot of people right now, you and I are at the age where our kids have moved out of the house, but I'm seeing a lot of things with families going on where people are actually home with nowhere to go, nothing to do, and actually spending time with family, which for a lot of families is kind of a first, it seems. But I think there's a lot of good things coming out of this coronavirus, I think.
Oh, I think of a lot of good things, Andrew. One is that I don't have to eat Tic Tacs anymore. My whole life, when I went to speak to someone, Tic Tac, make sure I don't breathe on him. Don't be Lazarus, he stinketh. So I was very, very cautious, especially when sharing the gospel. But you've got to be 6 feet from people. If they can smell my breath from 6 feet away, a ton of Tic Tacs won't help. So I've stopped eating Tic Tacs for the first time in about 40 years since I became a Christian, which is a huge blessing. Car accidents are down, so there's terrible tragedy in our midst, but there is a silver lining. And of course, people are open to the gospel, which is wonderful.
So there's another thing going on over there at Living Waters, right? You guys have the School of Biblical Evangelism, and right now you guys are offering it half off. So it's usually $150. I'm a graduate of the School of Biblical Evangelism. You get a nice thick book. It covers a lot. I mean, not just evangelism. It's really, you guys call it the School of Biblical Evangelism. It's really the School of Biblical Discipleship, I think, because you guys go into not just evangelism, but theology, world religions, a whole lot of different things, apologetics. So that book alone is worth the school, but it's being offered at half off right now at $75 over at livingwaters.com. Why do that?
Well, people are hurting and people are sitting at home. People are bored. And my whole life, my agenda has been to equip Christians for the work of the ministry. I want to see the gospel shared. I want to see people saved from hell. D.L. Moody said, I'd rather set 1,000 to work than do the work of 1,000. And the school equips. It's everything I've ever learned, plus more, in one Bible school. I think it's got over 20,000 online students. It's had 20,000 online students. So it really is a way that you can take advantage of this being still. I talked about Moses before. God plagued Egypt, and then he killed the firstborn. Israel ran away, and they escaped the Egyptians and found themselves at the edge of the Red Sea. And Moses said, stand still and see the salvation of God, because they had no way of escape. And that's what's happened with the ungodly. The whole world, which has been so busy, social media, Wall Street, Hollywood, buy, sell, New York, hustle and everyone moving, suddenly screeches to a halt. This is not just our city. This isn't just our country. This is the whole world. Billions of people, all of them suddenly come to a standstill. And we want them to stand still. We want them to listen to the gospel with an open heart for the first time in their lives, so they will see the salvation of God and have the Red Sea of death opened up by God's grace and the red blood of Christ. So this is the time to equip Christians. You spoke before about about after this is over. I hope it's going to be over. I hope it's not like 7 years of famine, because often 7 is such a big number that God uses in Scripture. I hope it's going to be over quick.
Let's
And
go
if
with
it
7
is,
weeks.
I hope
7 weeks. That's better.
7 weeks. Okay, 7 weeks. That'll work. I'd be happy with that. But I hope we see what it's like to be restrained, as we have been. I mean, the world has stopped our churches and it's covered our mouths. We have to cover our mouths now. By the way, I've got a bandana. Some of arrives tomorrow, and then the shipment comes next week. It's a bandana with needgod.com written across the mouth. So you can put it on, and so you can share your faith using your face. And so you go to the supermarket, that's all the checkout lady's going to see is needgod.com. And we hope Christians will use those instead of those face masks where you can't even hear yourself speak.
Well, you always are creative. There's no question about that.
Well, my father was very creative, Genesis chapter 1. But Andrew, we've got something else coming up. Give me a week. It's a bandana that's much, much better than the one I've just said. So I'm super excited about it. So sign up for our newsletter if you get a chance, livingwaters.com, and we'll keep you informed as to what's coming up. But I'm super excited. So excited, I'm not telling anyone what we're doing.
Well, for folks who may be stuck at home and bored, you guys are still producing daily videos. You're still going out you have some videos from, before this all happened. You still had videos from when you were at the college at Huntington Beach. And I'm just still amazed with you guys still, even working from home, being able to constantly be producing materials for people to get encouraged in their faith, learn how to share the gospel. So if people haven't gone to your YouTube, go to youtube.com, go look up Living Waters. There's videos coming out every day. I'm convinced sometimes there's twice a day because I looked yesterday and 2 popped up. So, but there's constantly stuff coming out that you guys are putting out, and it's encouraging. I was encouraged to see Scotty going out.
Oh, wasn't that wonderful?
Surgery. Yeah. Because he just had knee surgery and he hasn't been able to get out. I heard he's doing really well. I did email him and he said he's recovering well. So I was thrilled with that. So I should have mentioned earlier the conference you guys have is $25, which is really reasonably priced when you consider you're getting 5 different speakers that are given the training. It's able to be done at home. So $25, you put it on your TV, and just watch. More entertaining than anything on Netflix anyway.
Andrew, I got to say, and I'm not exaggerating, we are more productive now with this coronavirus than we've ever been as a ministry. Just so much is going on, so much is happening, and it's because our guys are not spending hours each day on the freeway. All our executive staff are working from home and working around the clock. I mean, Alan Atsby is right into the night every day, does nothing else but sit by his computer. And just wonderful things are happening. I've never seen such openness in the comment sections of our YouTube channel, where people are saying, how can I repent? How can I get right with God? Our channel just passed 114 million views, which blows us away. And I'm praying that God would explode it into the billions and reach many. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, Andrew, but I've noticed my dog, when he sees a cat, every muscle in him goes stiff, and his fur goes up. But when he sees a dog, it's a completely different kettle of fish. When he sees a dog, he goes, there's no like, this is my enemy. He rather says, this is one of my kind. And it's strange because I've never shown him an encyclopedia of dogs. He can look at a Chihuahua or a Great Dane. A Chihuahua looks sometimes like a rat. A Great Dane looks like a horse, but still he recognizes it as being after his own kind, which is very strange. And human beings are the same. We're fascinated by other human beings. I don't know if you've ever sat in a Super Bowl and they pan the crowd and suddenly you say, hey, there's a guy, looks like Uncle Arthur. Hey, look at that lady's hair. Whoa! We're fascinated by our own kind, and especially when it comes to people receiving the gospel. And that's the power of our YouTube channel. You become a fly on the wall. You don't sit there with a sweaty, loose-tie preacher holding a Bible pointing his finger at you. You can look over the shoulder and hear how someone feels about their fear of death and how they respond. You know, are you good enough to go to heaven? And you can sit as a fly on the wall as an unsaved person and not feel intimidated, and yet still come under the power of the same gospel. And that's why we're so excited that God's seems to be blessing YouTube channel. So I appreciate those of you who share it and those of you who support and watch it.
Yeah, you know, we have been finding that with people moving church online, there's been people who are coming to church services, you know, virtually, that really were not comfortable going to a church building. And so it is, I think there's a great opportunity here. And I was glad that you mentioned a Chihuahua looking like a rat, because just today,
sometimes.
Yeah. Well, see, today I grabbed this, Justin Peters, who you and I both know, put out a video, and I grabbed a snapshot of it and sent it to him because there looked like there was this oversized rat behind him. And he responded to me and said, "Rat? Look, any guy can have a big old black lab or German shepherd, but it takes a real man secure in his manhood to have a dog like mine."
That is actually true. And I have to say the same of a man who wears a pink T-shirt. There's a man who's secured himself. So a pink T-shirt and a Chihuahua, you're a Schwarzenegger, buddy.
Now you use your dog in evangelism. Some folks may not even know. Explain what you and Sam do and how you and Sam go share the gospel together.
And we still do it. He's coming with me on Saturday, and today I trained him to sit on the soapbox beside me. And he did. He sat really still. And Sam wears sunglasses, and I wear sunglasses, and he comes on my bike with me, and it endears me to someone. When I go to the local college twice a day, students would always come around and say, "I love your dog. What's his name?" As they went to pat him, I'd say, "Vicious." Actually, his name is Sam. And I had an instant rapport with these complete strangers because I had a cute dog. And as I've often said, when I'm riding a bike almost every day, it's an electric bike, people, especially women, would yell out, "How cute!" And I'd yell out, "So is the dog." One woman yelled out, "Hey, handsome, aren't you so handsome?" as I went by, and I said, "Thank you, ma'am." So I get a lot of mileage out of it, and Sam does too. He gets a tic tac if he behaves himself. Well, he used to.
Probably, yeah, used to. Now Sam doesn't have to be that close to people. Sam is probably the most famous dog. It has more views than any other dog. Maybe Lassie, maybe, but we'll give that time.
Yeah, those Lassies were like 10 dogs. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that there were at least 6 that I remember.
And you know, did you ever see Babe, the one about the little pig? That
No.
movie? Oh, great movie. There was 43 pigs when they filmed Babe. It's just not right. So this is the same Sam. We don't change it.
Just one Sam, irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now might be a good time for folks to go out to Living Waters and start stockpiling maybe some tracts or things to get ready for when we're allowed out. Now, you have a tract that's been doing very well that you've been handing out, and I'm just trying to look it up. It's how to be free from fear and death.
How to be free from the fear of death. Yeah, it scratches where people itch. Hebrews 2 verse 14, 15 says, "Every human being is haunted by the fear of death all their lifetime. The grim reaper sits on their shoulder and torments them." The Bible calls death the king of terrors. This little booklet tells you how you can be free from the fear of death. So if you go to livingwaters.com, click on the booklet, you can actually read the booklet online free of charge. So you'll see what you're getting. But when you say to someone, "Here's a little booklet called How to Be Free from the Fear of Death," you know that they're thinking about death and their fears. So it does scratch where they itch.
So, you know, real quick, because we want to do a shorter one, because I know you want to be with your wife right now, because and this is the thing I love about you is there's so many people right now that are like going crazy because they don't spend so much time with family. But I love about you, it's the same way. Everyone's asking me, how am I doing with, this whole virus thing? I'm like, I'm loving it. It's me and my wife home alone every night, nowhere to go. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's great.
So,
I just got to say, Andrew, we've become more like the church of the book of Acts. because of this. They met from house to house. They didn't have these massive buildings where you don't recognize someone unless you see the back of their head. I mean, hey, I go to your church. Oh, can you turn around so I can see the back of your head and see if I recognize you? It's the way we sit in church. It's just crazy. In Bible times, they met from house to house, and it was more intimate. And someone could bring around a cup of coffee while a guy's teaching. It never happened in today's church unless it's a kind of Starbucks church. But yeah, we're more like we're more like the Book of Acts now than we were then.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to get used to it, but because I'm preaching, I set up a little studio in my house. I got my own pulpit and I got my video camera, and I set up a big TV that, we use Zoom to be able to have everyone look at each other. And I'm looking at a TV of everyone's face. But unlike typically where as the pastor preaching, I'm the one looking at everyone's faces. Now everyone else can see one another, which is kind of different. So, hey, let's do a game. We're going to play a quick game because I think it'll be fun for you, and all the pressure's on me, and it's about evangelism. So you got to love that.
We'll see.
Now to start the spiritual transition game.
All right. So this is how we play this game, Ray. It is because most people, when it comes to evangelism, they're more comfortable once the conversation gets spiritual. But a lot of people have difficulty swinging from the natural world to the spiritual world. So we made a game of it. And so what we do is we play this actually in like I do this with the youth groups. I do this when we have Bible studies. We'll just throw something out, an object or whatever, a topic of conversation, and someone has to take from whatever is discussed, whatever the object or whatever the topic is, and get to the gospel. Now, the more people practice this, they no longer have to pray, Lord, give me an opportunity to share the gospel. Because when you practice this enough, you learn that every conversation is a gospel opportunity. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to turn it into one. So, Ray, all you have to do is give me some topic, some object, something, and I have to take whatever you give me and swing it into a gospel conversation.
Smelly socks.
Smelly socks. Okay. Well, that one's actually kind of easy because, see, smelly socks are something we want to avoid. We don't want to deal with them. And so the reality is there's a reason we don't want to. The smell, the fact that they seem disgusting, and yet the reality is that we can look at those socks when they're on our feet. We don't even recognize the smell. We don't think about it. As soon as we take it off, boy, is it overwhelming. That's the same reality with something that we all struggle with. All of us, we desensitize ourselves to things we do, and it's only when we see it, sometimes when we see it in other people, we can recognize it, or sometimes when we step away from things we do, we suddenly I was doing that. We do things that violate God's law left and right, and we don't even recognize it. We lie, we steal, we cheat, and we don't even call it lying and stealing and cheating. We'll say, well, when we lie, we call ourselves human. When we steal, we say, it was just a little thing. When we make up excuses for the things we do. We do that because we don't want to think about the smelly sock. We don't want to think about how bad things are. But when we're comparing to God, when we stand in front of God and we see that perfection, all that sin is going to smell horrible. It's a stench in his sight, and it'll be a stench in ours as well. And the reality is, though we don't want to admit it, we have to get right with God. Every single one of us has to turn from trusting ourselves or our good works and turn and trust Jesus Christ. We have to turn away from a smelly sock, put it in the wash, get it cleaned. Well, the way we get cleaned with our sin is to turn to Jesus Christ. He's the only one that can cleanse us. So that's how I'd go from a smelly sock to the gospel.
That's great. Love it. Good job, Andrew.
So any other things going on at Living Waters you want to talk about? We want to encourage everybody to go right now because this conference starts April 20th. I think Ray was waiting for my birthday to be over to start this conference. And so he waited. This is my birthday present from Ray Comfort, this week-long conference, and I appreciate that. But April 20th, it starts. So go to livingwaters.com right now. You can register $25 for the home conference, $75 for the School of Biblical Evangelism. Both are great tools to have to start turning your confinement into refinement, which is a great line. Ray, anything else you have going on at the ministry that you could share or talk about?
No, you've been very thorough. They're the things that we'd like to mention: the school, the conference, and that little tract, which is so applicable to today's dilemma.
Now, you guys had to cancel, unfortunately, Ambassadors Academy this summer, which was a hard decision, but that's going to be opened up next year. If you haven't been to an Ambassadors Academy with Living Waters, it's something you don't want to miss. We get a full day of training, and then we take teams out on the street. I have had the privilege of being one of the team leaders, and we take teams out. So you have people who are experienced evangelists going out, training you hands-on, so you don't have to worry if you're going to get stuck in a conversation. We have the leaders are there to help you through that. If you want to evangelize, if you're afraid of evangelizing but want to learn, Living Waters is the place to go. You have this home conference, you have the School of Biblical Evangelism, you have tracks that are there, and I would be watching, sign up for the newsletter, because when the Ambassador Academy comes around next year, it's going to sell out quick. So you want to make sure you're getting that newsletter to get that. So you're getting that as soon as it comes out, because I have a feeling it's going to fill up quick. Ray, I appreciate you coming on. I understand your son-in-law, that Middle Eastern Arab guy, just doesn't like us Jewish guys, so he didn't want to come on. He's too busy. He's got a cute little dog too now.
Yeah, he's got a brand new dog. It's a beautiful dog, and he's got 5 children as well.
It has 5 children?
He has 5 children.
Oh, I thought you said the dog had 5 children.
Yeah,
He's got a mini golden doodle, which is the first I've seen.
Beautiful dog.
So does his dog and your dog get along?
I'm not sure, but dogs are better than people. People don't wag their tails when they see you coming, but a dog does. So dogs are great.
Well, Ray, we so appreciate the ministry that God has given you. It has had an impact around the world, and we're looking forward to this conference, the home conference, coming up April 20th to 24th. Thanks for coming on and sharing some of the details with us about it. And we're encouraged by the videos you keep putting out, and we want to encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate being with you. God bless.
God bless.